Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, and welcome to another ranking video where I'm going to rank the last, in this case I have 35 new releases that I've read, both ones I, read arcs for, or listened to audiobooks for, or ones that I was just excited for and read them as soon as I possibly could. So I'm very excited to talk to you guys about these. This is something that I've been doing this year. I think I started this year, just kind of every 1 to 2 months it ends up being. And in this case, it's for June and most of July that I have these. And the way that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the one, I'm not going to go in order of when they came out. I'm going to go in order of how much I like them. So I'm going to go from the ones, well, I even have a DNF this time. Ones that I have 2 DNFs, I think, this time. Yeah, the ones I DNF'd all the way up to, I actually had a 6-star read as well. So yeah, we're going to go through these, start with the lowest, go to the highest, and I'll probably, I'll gush more and more as we get towards the climax of this one, okay? Before I do, please make sure that you like this video, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. All of it helps push me out to more people. I'm almost at 22K. I'm just a few away, so if you're someone who is a silent watcher but not subscribed, please go ahead and give that a subscribe here. I promise I put out 3 to 4 videos a week, a lot more recommendations than you'll know what to do with, okay? I promise. I'm here for it. So yeah, let's start with the DNFs that I had this time around. There were 2 of them, and the first one was Lies That Bleed by Leah Stone. This was a fantasy romance. I received an arc of this one, and unfortunately for me, legitimately it was a writing style and also the world setup of this one. I made it about 60-70 pages in that I gave it, which was a good 25%, and I will tell you it was very confusing. It has a kind of Hunger Games setup. There's also magical familiars, like you're getting paired with animals and it gives you power. There was a lot going into this and I just didn't care for it, and again, also the writing style was a very strange choice. So I just tapped out of it because I wasn't feeling engaged, and because this was a new to me author, it was a new to me author and a pretty newish author too, I believe. I think she has one other series out, but not a ton. And when I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not like that, I don't always want to push it through and give it a bad rating when it might just not be for me. I don't know. But yeah, this was a DNF for me. Another one that I just wasn't in the mood for it, I didn't have any serious issues with it though, was Not Your Business by Gillian Rank, and I was really sad for this. This one is an Omegaverse and it's going to be a reverse harem, but I know that there is content in it as well, so I was willing to give it a go. I do like some Omegaverse, so I was willing to try it. But I was not vibing with this one at all, and I had given this one a good, I think I was almost 30% in, and I just didn't care for the characters. I can't even tell you what any of their names were, so I was like, it's time to go. It's time to go. So yeah, that prevents me from having to give a bad rating, or also from getting bored or going into a reading slump. That's ways that I protect myself, because if you haven't noticed around here, I get through a very high volume of books, and mama doesn't have time to have a reading slump because I pushed myself to finish a book, right? All right, now we're jumping all the way up to a 3-star read. So I not too long ago on a video, I had someone say that they didn't trust me because I wasn't giving enough books lower ratings or something like that. And I addressed it at the time. So this isn't necessarily me fully addressing it now, but just as a reminder, there's a reason why I have very, very few books that I've given 1, 2, or even 3 stars to. And it's because of that DNF that I do. I very heavily DNF. I also, at this point in my reading career, I know if I'm going to like a book or not. I generally don't sign up for an arc if I don't think that I'll like it, right? I'm not into reading a book to hate read it or trying to prove to myself I can like it. I very rarely will do that, right? So for me, having a 3-star is generally as low as I go. I think in this entire year so far, I have 4 books that have been under 3 stars, because I'll just DNF. I get no joy out of giving a book 2 stars on a rating or whatever. So anyway, just a little reminder of that, why I jumped from a DNF to 3-star reads. And especially for the new releases as it is, I just will tap out because I get no joy out of writing a review where I hated something. So if I'm going to have to write a review for a book because I had an arc or, you know, whatever, I don't want to write if it's mean. So anyway, enough blabbling. The book that I gave 3 stars to was Bound to the Shadow Prince. Yeah. And this was a big disappointment to me because I absolutely loved the first half of this book. I talk about it in great detail in the weekly wrap-up where I talk about this one. So I won't go into that full-scale thing right here. But this one had so much potential. This was a fantasy romance. It was enemies to lovers, forced proximity. But the first half was the 2 main characters stuck in a tower together, and that's when they fall in love. And I was in it. Like, literally, I was in it so much. I was like, wow, this might be a 5-star read. I'm loving it so much. And then there is a shift in the story, and it was all downhill from there for me. Like, I didn't like pretty much anything that happened in the second half. I also feel that I feel like Ruby Dixon did not give me a satisfying ending. This is a standalone. It's a very long book, too. It's thick if you've seen a physical copy. This is a thick book. And I just did not know how the ending she gave could have been an HEA for anyone. Not that it wasn't an HEA for the couple. They were clearly in love. That was good. But the world that they're left in, I'm like, how is this an HEA for this world? You have left us in a fucking knot. And I was so angry. So this was one that I finished it because I was so far into it by the time it went south, and then it just kept going and kept going. And I was like, well, we're committed. And also because Ruby Dixon, she's one of the like biggest romance authors out there at this point with that. So I don't feel too bad being the 3-star read for her because it's not going to be a detriment to her career. But I was very disappointed, and I won't pretend otherwise. It was not my vibe. All right, now we go up to some 3.5. So once we're at a 3.5 space for me though, because I generally round a 3.5 up to a 4 when I'm rating it. I just generally do. If I'm feeling less than that, I'll go down. It means that I would still recommend the book in certain aspects, right? If you look at my rating scale or my video I've ever done about my rating, like a 3.5 or up, it will show up in a rec video. There are certain situations where it's good. It just personally was a bit dissatisfying to me. So that's where we're at when we're at the 3.5 level, okay? Because we do have some books that I liked, but just did not carry through all the way for me. And the first one that actually did that in this round is a very popular book. It's a very popular one. This author is just absolutely spinning out of control lately, and everyone loves her. There's a movie going to be made out of it. It's great. But I did not care for much Leather and Lark. I gave this one, as I said, 3.5. This is where we're at. I was so excited to read this. I loved Butcher and Blackbird, but there was something about the pairing in this one, the characterization of the heroine in here. She's kind of supposed to be like this Harley Quinn type. Her reasons for murdering, I don't know. In Butcher and Blackbird, it's very clear to me why these two are murdering, and so I don't know. I can go along with the campiness of it because they're killing killers. That's what they do. They made a game out of killing killers, and it's very like Dexter, very chaotic and sexy, and so all the stuff that goes with it, I was in for it. This one, I just don't feel like this one hit the dark romantic comedy the same way as the other one, and I don't know, I just didn't vibe with Lark and Lachlan the way I wanted to. And also this one was, I'm just saying, it wasn't as sexy to me. Even once they finally got to steamy stuff, I didn't care for it. There was even pegging in this one. Of course, it was in the epilogue because we never put pegging in the normal story of something. But it was just so, like, they took so long to get to it, and then it was like shove everything at the end. I just didn't think it was well balanced for me. So plenty of people feel differently. Plenty of people continue to love the audiobooks and love everything, but it just wasn't for Jenn. So I was sad. I pre-ordered this one. That's why I own it. I normally don't buy books that are under 4-star reads for me, but I pre-ordered it, and I am still intrigued enough to read the third couple, but this one wasn't for Jenn. Okay, then there was Worth the Risk. That was also 3.5 star. And this one was by B. Borges. This is a debut author. And this one was very sweet. I felt, as I've said, and I don't care if this makes me a horny bad girl, this was a closed door romance. And there was no indication anywhere in the blurb, in a lot of people's reviews, that this was a closed door romance. And I don't like being tricked into that. Don't try to trick me. Just tell me. I would have liked this story more if I wasn't anticipating something I didn't get. And not everyone agrees with me on that. And I don't just mean on this book. A lot of people, they don't care if they're going to see that or not. I don't know. But you guys know, there's a reason why I have a spice rating for my books. Like, I like there to be spice, or I need to know ahead of time. If I know ahead of time, then we're good. Then it's my own expectations that's the problem. This is a matter of expectation and delivery, and it wasn't there. If this author anywhere in the title had just said this is a sweet romance or sweet closed door or, steamy at the, like, steam pop, anything, I would have been better set up for this one. But this is a brother's best friend. It's a small town. The hero was a hockey player, I believe. He's now moved back to town. They've both kind of been pining for each other. He's living next door to her, and so now he's trying to woo her. It was very cute. It was sweet. But there wasn't, like, I don't know. And also, if there isn't going to be if it's going to be closed door, I then need the chemistry and the, like, lead up to be very good. Because again, I can be totally into the book with just the chemistry and just that, and then it's like, oop, we're just gonna fade to black for this, right? Claire Kingsley's doing that right now with her current series. She is now a more closed door romance author. She has stated that. We know going forward her books will be that way. And I still have enjoyed those books just fine. It's not that I have to see the dick going in, okay? I don't have to see that. But I like to be warned, okay? I like to be warned, and this one didn't do that for me. So then it then made me feel unsatisfied when I was finished, where I otherwise would have been like, oh, that was really cute. So that being said, this is a 3.5. There still will be times where I'll recommend it. If you want to read a small town romance and maybe you're getting tired of all the spice, maybe you're getting tired of things feeling too raunchy, maybe you need a break from that, this one is for you. It was sweet. I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it, but it fell flat because, again, I was unprepared for that, and I didn't feel like the rest of the story arc was then enough to uphold it without having that. So that's my reason for it. People don't have to agree. I highly recommend you give it a chance if you don't agree. Again, this was a debut author, so definitely give her some love. But I probably won't be reading another one of hers because now I can't trust what she's writing. And again, it wasn't stated anywhere that this would be closed door. So just say that. Just say that. Especially for, I will say this again too, the PR company that I got this arc from. Why didn't they say that it was? You know, they could have put that so that ARC readers knew ahead of time what it would be too. You know, most of my other PR companies say in the thing, like, this is very spicy or this is clean. Like, there are plenty of authors who still write, sorry, closed door. I know we don't like saying clean, but you know what I mean. They'll say it's a sweet and clean romance, or it is this or whatever. Whatever term they use, so that we as readers or reviewers get a little tip up, like, oh, if you read this, don't expect open door stuff, right? And the PR company didn't do that either, which I think was a mistake on their part. So anyway, just my opinion, but that's what you're here for. Okay, another 3.5 star was Little Sunshine by Layla Frost. This is one comes after Little Dove, which was a dark romance. This isn't really mafia. I have categorized this as mafia before, and it was pointed out to me because I hadn't read Little Dove in ages. I just always assumed because of the cover and because the hero's involved in kind of some shady business deals that this was mafia. It's actually not really. It's not even really organized crime. I don't know. But either way, it's more darker. This is a Daddy King series. And this book, it just felt very strange, the setup for the Daddy King part of it. He does kind of rescue the heroine from a sticky situation. And I don't know. I just didn't vibe with this couple enough. And the Daddy King felt very forced about it. And with that type of kink especially, it's tricky to make it fit. I'm not saying it isn't, but to find an organic way where, like, Daddy King can come into it is difficult. So I was a bit disappointed. There is going to be a third book in the series called Little Goddess. I'm not saying I wouldn't read that. I probably would. But this one, it just didn't tickle the pickle the way that I wanted it to, and I just ended up feeling it was awkward by the end of it. Okay, then there was Twisted Deeds that I gave 3.5 to by Mila Kane. This one, I just thought these two were wacky. I did like that the heroine was very, like, naughty and they really go at each other. But again, bully romance is tough for me, and I really think that Mila Kane has gotten, like, really out there with this. The things that they do to each other are awful. Granted, they're both kind of involved in the awful things, so I understand, but I just didn't care for them then. It made them both feel too bratty. Neither one of them could I connect to, so they just were two bratty kids doing bratty things to each other, and there wasn't anything for me to clamp onto and enjoy. So I didn't care for that. I really want Millie Kane to write her next mafia romance. I'm getting a little tired of the bully ones, honestly. That's just my opinion. So I don't know if I'll sign up for an arc of the next hockey one. I might wait until there's a mafia one, because I do like her mafia romance, right? Okay, then there was The One I Left Behind by Piper Rain. This was the second book in her their Plain Daisy Ranch series, and this one was a Friends to Lovers Marriage of Convenience. I listened to the audiobook for this one, which was great, but I will say they definitely miscommunicated so bad. My main issue with this one is that for a couple that they have been friends their whole lives, they've been neighbors, they've been besties, they've been there for each other through losses in their family, through their family businesses not doing well, through all of these things. The amount of miscommunication for these two who are supposed to be best friends was ridiculous. It was so over the top, unneeded, and it just frustrated me to no end. And that's not a good place to be. Like, Friends to Lovers is hard to pull off anyway. It really is, because what is it that's flipping the switch, right? I generally like a Friends to Lovers when one of them is getting out of a relationship they've been in, because that makes sense why the other person has had to pull away because that person was with someone else. But for this, for them to just like constantly misunderstand, misconstrue, and not know the motives of this person they've been best friends with, I just didn't buy it. I've said this. My best friends who I've been friends with my whole life, both male and female, I know how they would react to a situation 9 times out of 10, even more, like 49 out of 50 times, okay? Higher percentage. I would know what my friend's going to do in a situation. And they were wrong almost every time about that. And it's just poor planning. They shouldn't have been best friends if you're going to do that, or they should have had the conflict between them be different and not just be miscommunication about that. Because you can't sell them as best friends to lovers if they constantly misconstrue motives of the other person. Then you weren't friends. You were fake friends. So anyway, I have a strong opinion on that one, because Friends to Lovers is difficult. Okay, the next best, Fling by Gabrielle Gomez. This one is a traditionally published one, so I was very intrigued to see how I'd feel about it. This one is a kind of fake dating, but not really. It was so confusing. But basically, his brother is marrying a woman who he loves, and her best friend is that brother who's marrying that woman. And so they both are in love with the people who are getting engaged in this. And he is going to try to beg the woman not to marry his brother at the engagement party. And she overhears him talking to himself about what he's going to do. And she stops him, takes him home with her. They don't hook up, but they almost do. I think it's because they don't have condoms. They end up not doing it. I don't know. But then they're seen together coming to the brunch the next day together, and people assume they're dating. And so they kind of just go along with it, but also they do want to hook up because they want a meaningless hookup to help them forget these other people. It was just so messy, and honestly, the hero didn't make his move soon enough. He seemed really weak, and the heroine was just, I didn't like her. She was a doormat. She let that other person walk over her for years, and I know it happens. We get in those situations, but the fact that she was so blind to it, it makes her look dumb. I don't want my heroine to look dumb. I need a reason why she continually caves to this person for me to believe that she would let herself be treated that way. And it just didn't work. It just didn't work for Jenn. All right, another 3.5 star was An Engagement Pact by Noelle Adams. This is a part of a small town series she has. This one was a fake engagement, which leads to a marriage of convenience. So I guess it wasn't fake because they do it. He needs access to a inheritance he'll only get when he gets married, and she needs help. I think she wants to go back to school is what she wants. So something, as I've said, I always love about Noelle Adams is that the people's problems are kind of like real people's problems. So even though this is like a marriage of convenience for that, it's very real. Like, he wants access to an inheritance. and she wants to go to school and doesn't have the money to do that. And so by agreeing to get married and stay married for a certain amount of time, he's like, I'll pay for school. And he's like, and you'll help me get access to what I need. So it was very simple, very sweet, as Noelle Adams does, but there also wasn't anything that exciting. So it was just so-so for me. Okay, and then the last 3.5 star I had was The Best of All by Carla Sorensen. This is a double guardian story. They both become guardians of this little girl because their friends died, and they were the godmother and godfather of this little girl. He's a football player. She is I think she's like an accountant or whatever. And so she's been the one taking care of the little girl since they died. He's been really kind of like ignoring his responsibility there. He doesn't understand why he was made godfather and was given like guardianship of this little girl when he is so not good around kids or any of those things. So he definitely runs from his responsibility, and then he starts to feel guilty about that. So he ends up moving into the house. She's been like living next door with the little girl because she was neighbors with her friends who died too. And they start kind of guardianing this little girl, and they fall in love with each other. And this one was okay. The conflict was all kind of that emotional, like dealing with the death. There was grief. This one was also a surprise, like almost closed door. Okay. There was one scene in the very last chapter of the book, and it just felt like and not just for the sex scene, it felt like for the whole story we were pushing off, and then in the last 3 chapters they got together, had set, and it was done. And it just felt very unbalanced. And now this one isn't just because I didn't have sex throughout, it's that their relationship was just like all at once, which was strange. So yep, that one was a 3.5 for me. All right, now we have our 4 stars, which of course we have a good amount of those because 4 stars is probably my most popular rating that I do. So we'll go through some of these a bit quickly here. There was Broken Beginnings by Cleo Evans. This is Cleo is normally like, I believe, like a paranormal fantasy writer. This is her small town title. She actually had this out under a different name and it didn't really sell well, so she repackaged it and just gave it her real name, or her author's pen name that's already out there. So yeah, this one was a small town mystery romance. It was a little bit kinky, a little bit fun. I definitely would read more. Was it a little bit cowboy? I don't know, but it was hot. It was fun. I don't remember too much else about it besides that. It's just kind of there. So yeah, that was good though. There was Forbidden King by Laura Pavlov. This was my second Laura Pavlov, and I'm not asking for arcs of this series anymore, I don't believe, because they've just both been okay. I read both Forbidden King I read Forbidden King, and I also read like Wild River, and they were just okay for me. This one was another one that was a friends to lovers, and I just got the major ick from the hero. As I said when I reviewed this, he was thinking about her body in every scene they were in, and in fact there was a family get-together, you know, with their found family. This is a found family series, which I do love. It's very sweet, but he is hosting a Easter barbecue at his place, and he's getting so turned on by just watching her with their family and friends that he needs to go into his bathroom and jack off because he's just thinking about her. Now, she happens to be hiding in his shower when this happens. Again, we're at this family party. They have this fun little game they play where they'll leave like flowers or notes for each other in different places, and she decides she really wants to surprise him by putting it in his shower, because who would have put it in the shower, right? Such a surprise. And so she's in the shower hiding this thing in there when he comes in and has to jack off in the toilet about her. Guys, ew. I'm sorry. Ew. He was constantly thinking about her body. And she wasn't blameless in this. She's also constantly thinking about his dick. And you guys know, I don't care for that. So yeah, it was a friends to lovers, pretty low angst. It was fine. But again, probably won't try to read any more of hers, because this is 2 that I've just been okay about. And again, I don't like to review books when I don't love them. So I try to pick books I will love as much as possible. And this one was just okay. So moving on from that. I had The Bones of Love by Megan Montgomery. Now this one I did really like. I did really like this book. Though it was still missing a little bit of what I wanted. But this is actually a forensic anthropologist and a priest. And he's actually going to become a priest. But I believe it's an Orthodox priest, and if he isn't married before he becomes a priest, then he can never get married. So he can be one or the two. He can be a celibate priest forever, because that would be a sin to, be with anyone but God if you are the priest first. Or he could be married when he becomes a priest, and then he can be with his wife, because that is sanctioned or whatever and totally allowed. The book explains it pretty good. It is truthful what they're going into with this one. But this is very interesting because his family is actually a family of morticians. And I didn't know until I was reading this that this is like the third book in the series. And I love these covers so much. And so his family is actually a family of morticians. And there's some very powerful stuff with care for the dead in this one. It wasn't too gory or any of that, but it was very emotional, because there is actually a loss of a family member in this book, and his family is then taking care of this deceased loved one together. It was very emotional, very beautiful, but very emotional stuff in here. And anyway, there's a lot of angst in this one because he and her agree to be married for this reason. They're friends. And she is attracted to him. So she's like, I would like to have sex with you, and being married to you, it wouldn't be a hardship for me. She doesn't have any prospects either. She works with, bones and dead people all the time too. So it's difficult to find someone who wants to be with that. And, so yeah, they end up together. But there was a lot of angst for a good part of it, because even though she agreed to marry him because she was attracted to him, he felt bad about how much he wants to be with her. So that part of it was a little bit like, dude, she wouldn't have married you if she didn't want to fuck you. That was the whole point. You know what I mean? It was literally like, so you don't have to be celibate forever. Okay, well, the only way you're not being celibate is if you're with your wife. So what? But anyway, his thought process about it was so sweet that I didn't hate him for it, but it did get frustrating, hence why this was a 4-star. But I really liked these two so much, and I definitely want to read more from this author. This was very well done. I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, then there was Silver Foxed by Kayla Gross. I didn't read an arc of this one. I just snagged this one when it was out. This was just a quick little spicy book, as Kayla Gross is wont to do sometimes. This is a fling at a lake house, and it's her dad's business associate. He's, I think, like 20 years older than her, and they end up hooking up. There's some real spicy stuff here, and it was good. There wasn't anything to dislike, wasn't anything fantastic about it. It just was a solid little erotic novella there. All right, there was Midnight Whispers by P. Rain. This is also Piper Rain, by the way. This is their dark romance name. And this is a part of their Midnight Manor series, which is a dark fairy tale retelling. This one was Cinderella, and it has the Cinderella vibes. He was actually engaged to marry her stepsister, and she actually sends him an anonymous note saying that the stepsister is cheating on him. And so when he finds that out, he's really pissed, and he ends up going to a strip club for the night because he's just like, I just want to go watch some sexy girls dance, maybe get a lap dance, and forget about my cheating ex-fiance. And our heroine, she also has to part-time work at the strip club to make ends meet. And he doesn't know that she is his ex-fiance's stepsister because they've really hidden her away, and he falls for the stripper, and he actually becomes her stalker. And when she ends up getting kicked out of her home, he offers her a place to stay. She only knows him as a guy who watches her at the strip club, but she really has nowhere else to go, and it goes from there. So very, very thin situation there. It was very odd. Yeah, it was strange, but I mean, it was definitely hot. There was some hot scenes in here. There's a sex club that the brothers all own together in this one. So, or a sex, not a sex club so much, but a like sex organization or something. I don't know. You know, if you've read some of them. Okay, then there is Yours Truly by Daisy Jane. This is the second book in her Twisted Sister series. The first one being a stalking romance that I really, really loved so much. And so this one is about the middle sister who is an apprentice to become a tattoo artist. And her new mentor is actually a celebrity tattooist. He used to be on TV, and his life has kind of spiraled apart. So he's in this small town and working at his buddy's tattoo shop, and he's been assigned to be her mentor, and he's not doing a great job with it. He's kind of a fuck up, and she gets pissed about it, and one thing leads to another, and she ends up with his dick in a chastity cage and refuses to give it back to him until he gets in line. So take that for what you will. It was pretty hot. There's some good stuff in there. All right, then we have Just My Luck by Lena Hendricks. This is the second book in her, I think this is the second book in the King family series. But this one is this one was a marriage of convenience, and it's a single mom. This is Sloane and Abel, and she has twin children, I think, and she has, is getting a divorce from her ex, who is very abusive, and she's currently staying with her grandfather, and then, she's just in a very vulnerable place. And so Abel ends up agreeing to be her fake husband, and now her and her kids are living with him. So yeah, very simple story, but very good. I really enjoyed this one. Okay, then we have Beautiful Beast by Neva Altaj, which was a 4-star read. This is my last 4-star read I had. And this one just recently came out, and I was a little bit disappointed. It's the first in a new series, and I didn't really like it because it was too long. And I thought that their back and forth just wasn't very satisfying to me. Neva Altaj is someone who doesn't really kind of pussyfoot around with that. Like, her men want their women and they go for it. And this one was just a little bit much. And then because this is a second generation, I have higher standards for how things are going to play out. And so this one just didn't really tweak my fancy the way I wanted it to. So that was why that one was a 4-star read. Okay. Now we have just a couple 4.5-star reads, so almost 5-star. We were very close with a couple of these. So there was Things Left Unsaid by G.A. Mazurk, which is Serena Bowen, and this is the first in her cowboy series that she has. She has this ranch series going, and this is a forced marriage, basically, between these two different ranches, and the heroine actually has type 1 diabetes, which was an interesting aspect of the story. And they also have someone who's trying to take down both of their ranches. So there was a suspense element. Basically, the reason this one was a 4.5 and not a 5 was it was way too long. Like, this, for a contemporary, it was way too long. And that isn't really a surprise when you see it came from Serena Bowen, because women don't write small books these days. So that makes sense. But I really enjoyed it. I will definitely read the next one in that series for sure. So it wasn't horrible. And then I forgot one here. So we have Hold Me Until Morning by A.L. Jackson. I gave this one a 4.5. So I guess if it's in this category, that's fine. See, I missed stuff on my page here. But this one is the final book in her Time River series. It's so beautiful. She so kindly sent me a copy of this one. Look at this. This is a single mom. This is kind of a Playboy hero. It is a best friend's sister. Is it best friend's sister? I think this one, or sister's brother, or best friend's brother, I think maybe. I don't know, but this one was wonderful. I love her series. They're really good. The audiobook is fantastic in this one. And this is a single mom. She's back in town, and she has a new job in town. And he is really into her. He really wants to win her over, and she's like, no, you're a playboy, stay away from me. I don't got time for playboys. I'm a busy girl. Also, she has just left her abusive ex-husband, so she's like, I don't have time for men. It's me and my daughter against the world. That's all I want. And he's like, girl, let me be here for you. Let me be your baby daddy, okay? Let me be here for you. So it was pretty hot. It was great. Her books are like, look, he's making them breakfast. It's so cute. She writes wonderful stories. She's going to be starting a new series soon. Hold Me. Wait, what is it? Love Me to Eternity. I can't remember what the first one is, but it's going to be a spin-off series from her Redemption Road series, I think. There was Golden Touch by Serena Bowen, which, again, didn't have an arc of this one, but I just read this one the last week. It is a brewery, and Nash is in town to help take care of it because his father is needing to stay at kind of a short-term health facility while he gets infusions to get rid of an infection that he has, and he's not able to be at the brewery. And so Nash comes to town to help with that, even though he has a very like strained relationship with his father. And Livia is kind of like the office manager and assistant to the dad, and so now she's working with Nash one-on-one, and she's a woman on the run from her abusive ex who like tried to kill her, and so she's hiding out there. So I really liked this one. 4.5 stars, enjoyed it. I love Serena Bowen. She's always a solid author for me. Okay, now we're into the 5-star reads because I've just been jumping all over the place, but I think I got everything that was less than 5 stars out of the way. I think we did. Okay, let's go through these. So we have Forgotten Desires by Corinne Michaels. This was my favorite one in the series. 5-star read. This is a second chance romance. These two had a fling ages ago. This is the sister to the series in the Whitlock series, and they had this fling during spring break years ago. Now it's been, I believe, like, I don't know, what has it been, 5 to 10 years? I don't remember how many years it is. And our hero is a billionaire, and he is actually working with, I think her brother is his private pilot, the brother from a previous book. And he is a single dad who is in a custody battle with his ex-wife, and he needs a wife to help him gain full custody is what it ends up being, and she agrees to do it. And he plans to make this fake marriage real. He's going to do whatever he has to do to win her over for good and prove that, you know, he couldn't have reached out to her. Like, there was reasons why he couldn't reach out to her. And also his family pushed him into this marriage with his first wife. He was pushed into it. And he just felt like he didn't have those choices back then. But now he's a billionaire in his own right. His parents don't have any say over what he does. And so he's ready to have the woman that he wants to have. So there was lots of swoony good stuff in here. It's a billionaire taking her over, and watching her with his child was so beautiful. It was a really powerful one. I enjoyed it so much. Then there was The Feud by Sawyer Bennett that I gave 5 stars to. I really need to read The Forbidden. That just came out, but I haven't had time. It's been busy, and I didn't have an ALC of that one, which I did for this one. This is a, it's called Feud, of course. There's a family feud going on, but this one isn't actually an enemies to lovers. It's a friends to lovers, right? So this is a man finding out he is a single dad when the child is 9 years old, and he did have a one-night stand with his enemy. So there's the Moore Dragons and the, I can't remember the name of the other family, but they're these two warring families, and one of them is into whiskey making, the Moore Dragons, and the other family is really into the ranching side of it. They're very wealthy ranch, and our hero is the one kind of taking it over. He's the heir apparent to all of it. And the heroine is actually the principal of the school. So when he takes on his new daughter, who very much is trying to push him away, doesn't want to be with him. She was raised in another country, so she's French, and she just hates him. And the judge actually puts her with him, even though her family didn't know that he was the dad until after the mother had died. She died of brain cancer, actually. But she had left her daughter to him, even though they're enemies. So he doesn't understand why she, you know, never told him about the child, but yet made him her, you know, like put him as her father on the birth certificate. He doesn't understand, but he's like, you know what? I'm not going to turn away from my daughter. I'm not just going to give her over to them. I want to get to know her. And his whole family does too. Like, they all just rush in and want to love this girl. And it's so beautiful. Like, it just warms my heart up so much. It's so good. But it is a struggle. And so much so that he gets a little help from the school's principal, who is so sweet and kind. And she's just there to help him and give him advice, but also be the advocate for the girl, to show that, like, I'm on your side, you know, and be there for her. And I loved this. I love this. I say again and again, though, this did focus a lot, like not a lot more, but it focused very strongly on the father-daughters getting to know each other. But the romance was still sweet. It just, there wasn't any drama in their relationship. The drama was in, you know, will his daughter accept him? How is this feud with the other family play into it? So there was a lot of that. So I just warn people that just don't expect this romance to be the swooniest one you've read. It's a friends to lovers, and it happens a bit later in the book, but I loved it. I loved it, and I really want to read The Forbidden, which I think will have the romance more as a focus, and that one's going to be an enemies to lovers between the hero's sister and then one of the sons of the other family. So I very much want to read that one. All right, then there was Full Throttle by Melanie Moreland. This is the 5th and final book in the Reynolds Restoration series. And this one is an older love romance. So we have Cherry and Dom, and he works for Reynolds Restoration. And Cherry is actually the mother of a heroine from a previous book. And so this book is actually taking place kind of the same time as the previous book because they're both getting to know each other. The couples are both getting to know each other at the same time. So this was another like very low angst book. Melanie Moreland does low angst very well. She does high angst too, but she does low angst pretty good. So yeah, they're both in their 40s. They both are single parents, but his child is actually a lot younger, and he has never been allowed to be in his life. And so that is something that Cherry actually helps him do in this story. So this was easy breezy, 5-star for me. There isn't anything to complain about, but I do recommend that you read the whole series. Start with Rev to the Max because you'll get the best experience that way. All right, then there was Bourbon and Lies by Victoria Wilder. This was a new to me author, and I enjoyed it so much. I love to see that more people are trying out this one. But this is a heroine who's on the run. She is in the witness protection program, and she gets put into this small town, and she gets made the neighbor of our hero. And he is a retired law enforcement officer. He has a canine who retired with him. They are together. His canine, her name is Julep, and she's my favorite character in the book. I adore her. She's amazing. And anyway, they end up being next door neighbors to each other. And there is a lot of like banter back and forth, sassiness back and forth. They definitely are kind of lusty towards each other to start, but she's definitely hiding obviously a lot about why she's there, and he's a very curious man. He's like, who is this woman? And once he starts to find out the truth about it, I loved how much he was on her side and how much he supported her. And yeah, I loved it. I love that so much. So yeah, that was a 5-star for me. Okay, then there was God of War. We have here by, where did I write it down? There is God of War, which is the finale to the Legacy of the Gods series, which y'all know I loved. I do still love God of Fury the most, but God of War was amazing. This was Eli and Ava's story. It's very emotional. There's a lot of trigger warnings to this one, but it's really hard to talk about this without spoiling anything. But this is a forced marriage. It's also amnesia. She wakes up not remembering that she married Eli, and she doesn't understand why she would marry Eli, and we are kind of discovering it with her as she discovers it. There's also lots of triggers for mental health in here. She does have serious mental health issues, as well as some disorders. There are lots of self-harm. There's a lot in this one, but I enjoyed it. Even though it was difficult, it was very good. Okay, then there is also, I don't remember where this one fits in here, but I didn't write it down, so we're going to talk about it right now. See, these are difficult for me. There was, of course, Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. Gave this one 5 stars. This one was almost a 6-star book. I say it just wasn't because it was very long. It was a lot to hold on to. But this was a single dad and the nanny, and this was just so emotional. The little boy is actually going blind from a degenerative eye disease, and they want to give him as many good memories to hold on to as they can. And so he's learning how to play instruments, and the dad is a billionaire, and he's also very like covetous of time with his son because he knows how important this time is. And so he is very jealous of the nanny in the beginning. He also is very attracted to the nanny, which makes him a little bit pissy that he's attracted to her. You know, he doesn't behave the best. We know this. But watching him, you know, come to that realization and realize how wrong he is, and then seeing him grovel about it, I loved it so much. So really enjoy Lauren Asher. And this one was worth the length for me because there was a lot of sweet moments in between watching us get there. But the hero is a bit yo-yo-y. That was annoying to me because he just is like, can't decide. You know, he he had a really poor like marriage before. He was very much used by a woman before, and so he's very gun shy in that respect. So yeah, there's some frustrating parts about him, but overall this book was more good than not to me. And again, it was almost 6 stars if it hadn't have been so long, because it was a little bit too long. Okay, we'll respect that. Also one that I forgot was The Mist Thief by L.J. Andrews. This one was so good. This one was a 4.5 stars. See, I was horrible. I got these all messed up this time around, but I liked it a lot, so it's fine. I've talked about this one ad nauseum. I actually just did all the fantasies that I've read this year so far, so you can check that out. But this was a forced marriage contract 1-2. There's fae, there's magic in here, and this is an alliance to help protect a certain people from the bad guys, and slowly the hero starts to win over the heroine, who has just had a very closed off heart. She has been used previously for her body and for her powers, and Jonas is there to just love her and win her over, which is wonderful. I do own that book, but I must have put it away on accident here. Then there is Mad Love by Willow Astor, which this was my first Willow Astor. It is the first in a new series that is the Single Dads Playbook. So yeah, the whole series is going to be single dads, and they actually have a club together. And they start writing this Single Dad Playbook because of our hero in this book, who discovers that he's a single dad to a very young child. He's only 2 months old, as a baby. He discovers this when the mother dies in a car accident. The boy is fine, but it hits her side of the vehicle and she dies pretty much instantly. And he gets a call because he's on the birth certificate, and the heroine of this is actually the sister of the girl who died, so the aunt of the baby, and she has been told that he didn't want anything to do with her nephew, and so she's very distrustful of him when she meets him. And he's like, lady, I was never reached out to. I had no idea about this child. Like, come on. And so he is, he's the guardian of this is his son. And so instead of being at war with her, though, he's like, listen, I've never been around babies, but I want my son. I want him. So help me take care of him. So he actually moves her in with him, and she's kind of being the nanny for the kid, but really they're like co-raising this child together. And so this was a really beautiful slow burn, and they're actually kind of from this initial, her dislike of him because of the lies that she'd heard before. Her sister, who passed, wasn't the most truthful woman out there. We'll just say that. Because of some of that, there's that animosity to start. And she also knows that if she ever pissed him off, he could cut her out of the child's life. So she's very nervous to begin with, but he's not going to do that. And they slowly become friends. And so then this is like a friends to lovers, which is great while they take care of this kid, which I just loved. I loved it so much. Okay, we're winding down here. We have Wildest Dreams by Kristen Proby. This is book 3 in the wilds of Montana. This one is a friends to lovers that started with a one-night stand. It's also a brother's best friend, or best friend's sister, whichever way you want to go. This is a single dad, but he has adopted a son. He adopted a 16-year-old who's in foster care, who's an orphan, and Ryan is a billionaire. He's moved back to the area to be closer to his family. And now he's taken on this kid, and he has a one-night stand with our heroine at his brother's wedding. And they have a bit of a miscommunication, not a bad one, like literally they just think the other one will contact them and they don't. And so there's a little bit where neither of them reaches out to each other, but then our hero decides hey, I really want to be with her, so I'm going to make a move again. And she's like, well, you didn't reach out to me. And he's like, you left before I woke up. I didn't think you wanted me to talk to you. And she's like, well, but you could have gotten my number. So that's the little bit. That gets over very quickly. Our heroine owns her own business in town. She owns a little boutique. And so, yeah, she's a business owner. He's a business owner. He's a billionaire. He sweeps her off to Paris for Fashion Week at one point. It was great. I have no notes. This was wonderful. 5 stars, super spoony, wonderful. All right, then there was If You Give a Billionaire a Bride by Ann Einerson. Her books are getting bigger, y'all. So good. This one is book 2 in the series, but there is a novella that starts it out. So there's 3 in this one. This one is a marriage of convenience that starts with a Vegas wedding between a reformed playboy and his best friend's sister. It's banter-filled, it's spicy, and Everly Townsend is the heroine in this, and they're both in Vegas. They end up getting married in Vegas, and then they're not allowed to get a divorce right away because they could mess things up for their family businesses if they did, because their families are actually going to be in business together, and if they got a divorce or annulment right away, it would ruin things, so they have to stay together. And Cash decides, because he has wanted her for a very long time, he decides that he's going to use this time to convince her to want to stay with him. So our hero is obsessed, and he's going to make it happen. We love it. We love it. And funny enough, my last 5-star I have to share is another Vegas wedding. Yes, July has been filled with Vegas weddings for sure. There's Play Along by Liz Tom 40. And I will say this is one that I gave it 5 stars. But after like talking about this with more and more people who've read it, I don't know that it will stay at 5 stars. I've done enough jumping around with these books. I'll just leave it there for here. But I think upon like rereading it, it'll probably be a little less. I liked both of these characters. In fact, Isaiah is perfect. He's wonderful. But he doesn't really go through much of a character arc in this story. All of his work is kind of done off page. All of his work is kind of done through other things. Like there's a little bit of stuff he has to work through from his childhood trauma, but for the most part, he's perfect the whole way through. And I know some people are okay with that, but I had the same problem when Kennedy Ryan did that in a book. Like even when a hero is perfect for the heroine, I still need them to have stuff to work through. And I just think that there was a lot that was just kind of okay about this story. But when I was reading it, I liked it. But this did take me 5 days to get through. So I don't know. Again, I have this at 5 stars. Most people are absolutely raving over this. They don't have a single problem with it. I just think there was something missing when I compare it with the other books in the series. I was missing some of that I wanted. But the moments throughout it and other parts, I loved it. The spice was good. He was so obsessed with her, but there was just something missing, and I don't know what it was. But, you know, I compare it to the standard the author herself set. You know, she wrote Ryan Shea. She wrote Z. She wrote Kai, his brother. And so I know that she can add that little extra something in there, and I think I was just missing it there. But I still put it on the 5 stars. I still recommend it. It was beautiful. And it was another Vegas wedding where then they have to stay married, this time for her job, so she doesn't lose her job. She's actually at the time, she's basically a massage therapist for the team, but she is a doctor. So yeah. So those were all of the 5 stars and 4.5 stars and all that. And I have one 6-star book to share that I just absolutely adored and is on my favorites of the year, and that was Honeycut by Sierra Simone. This was book 2 in the Lioness trilogy. This will be an MMF. In this book, it's actually a cheating story. There's cheating going on because in the first book, Isolde fell in love with Tristan. She already loved her to-be husband. They do get married in this one, and now Tristan is her bodyguard and Mark's bodyguard, and he loves both of them, and there's just lots of complicated feelings going on in it all over. It's just so much, and it's messy, but it's Sierra Simone messy, and I could not put this book down. I was addicted to it the whole way through. It was so powerful. And the cliffhanger, though it ripped my guts out, it's phenomenal. I love this so much. It's an erotic romance the way no one else can do it. Yes, there's BDSM. There's emotional scenes. There is angst. Like, I can only handle so much angst in my life, and Sierra Simone puts me right on the edge of it, everybody. She puts me right on the edge of it, for sure. Okay, so there we go. Those are the last 34, 35 new releases that I have read and my rankings for them. Let me know if I got any of them wrong, besides the fact that I put stuff wrong in the categories myself. But let me know what you thought of some of them, and let me know what your favorite recent release was. And we'll see you in the next one, everybody. Bye.